Hello and welcome to Everyday Eternal number 117, your favorite, most deceptively named bi-weekly legacy podcast. If you want to support the running of the show directly, you can support us on patreon.com/everydayeternal. Callum, I just woke up and I'm 40 minutes late to our recording. I'm so sorry, dude. How's it going, man?
God, I had an interview with the Queen lined up. I have to skip it for this. I hope this is a good episode because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be right. And I mean, she deserves it. After she stood us up last time and then we had to do with Andrea Mangucci. I
guess if you want to think of it like that. Yeah, well, he's better, obviously. Anyway, I'm good. Good evening. It's been a whole week since the last episode. We're really living up to our deceptively named bi-weekly podcast because we did an episode last week and before that it was 3 weeks. So we're really just mixing it up. No one has any idea what's going on. And we're all over the place, just waking up.
Yeah, but these are really turbulent times for Legacy, right? Now that bans are happening left and right, and Wizards even hinted that there might be some in the not the immediate future, but whatever. Right? Quote, there's soon, and then there's Wizards soon, whatever that is gonna mean. But we'll talk about that later on, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that. They definitely use some interesting language, which I was quite pleased with. But yeah, we'll get into that later for sure.
Cool. Have you been playing? I think you played something in the last challenge. Was it Spirits again?
No, I played Mono White Painter in the challenge.
How many painters are there?
There's many. This is what's so... we could just do an episode on Painter and I could talk for 5 hours. There's so many. It's so cool. I think
we actually did.
So this one, it's a different approach, actually. It's more tempo-y beatdown, actually. So you have... Esper Sentinels in there, and then you have Mother of Runes to kind of protect Esper Sentinels. You have some Aethersworn Canonists, I think a 3 main deck, and you play 4 Wastelands, and you play Oswald, and he's pretty good at sacking a 2-mana artifact to go and get a Crucible to rebuy the Sagas and Wastelands usually. So it's actually it's an interesting deck because it has a ton of grinding power. It really went tit for tat against some of the fair blue decks I played against, and really can outgrind things. But there's no raw card draw except for Esper Sentinel, which is quite easy to play around that. So all the cards generate value not by drawing actual more cards. I've forgotten the name of the 2-mana 1/1 that ETB is. You look at the top 4 and get an artifact.
Oh, yeah.
I've been playing with it so much and I've already forgotten the name, but then it grows more and stuff. So played that in the challenge. Really, really sweet deck. We'll post the deck list in the show notes.
In the show notes? Cool.
Yeah. I went 4-3, so middling, but I had a nice 3-0 start. I played against 8 cast twice, and I had Spirit of the Labyrinths in the sideboard, which are pretty good, but also Caracas and Wasteland are very good against them. So then I ran into the good blue-red Delvers part of the challenge, and Murktide is a massive problem for the deck. I just had 2 or 3 swords in the sideboard and just didn't draw them enough.
This is the legacy thinking. Oh yeah, big flying creatures are a problem for me. 2 or 3 swords in the sideboard.
Dude, one of the games, they played an 8/8 dragon, and then end of turn bolt me, untapped, and played another one untapped for 15. It was yeah.
Thanks for playing. It still blows my mind that we have that, right? A 2-mana,
it's a fireball
8/8 dragon.
I mean, it's a fireball dragon. Yeah, makes sense, but it's big and blue. Anyway,
I guess when you have 2, it's almost like the first one has haste.
Yeah, or the second one has haste even.
Yeah, it's basically, makes more sense actually.
Yeah, sweet deck though. It is actually pretty powerful. I quite liked a lot of the stuff going on. It was just weak to Murktide because with Red Painter you have 6 or 7 blasts, so obviously it's less of a problem. And it is more weak to Meltdown, which is played a lot, and God, I hate that card. It just keeps destroying me and I keep walking into it, but you're playing more things that it dies to. Red Painter's okay because sure you have some of the same artifact lands and you do have grindstones and stuff, but a lot of your creatures apart from Painter are the welders and the engineers, but here you have Sentinel and Canonist. So when you get Meltdown, you get Meltdown really hard.
But my favorite part of the last week was seeing you all over Twitter. Whenever somebody mentioned Meltdown, you were like, no, don't play. Don't.
That was today.
You were trying to there's the dam that's about to breach, and you were trying to plug the holes. It's no more Meltdown, please.
I've been happy not mentioning it, and then Rich Callie, who everyone listens to for Delver advice for very good reason, posted Meltdown is amazing. You should play it. This is where I was like, all right, time to plug the dam. Fuck this. Please stop playing this card. It's so brutal. It's not too bad to play against with Red Painter though, which We can get into it a little bit later. I think Red Painter won a lot by Ragavan being banned, just by essence of all of Delver's threats, apart from Dragon Rage Channel, are now probably dying to Pyroblast. So it's a lot better.
Cool.
So I'm happy.
Cool.
I'm happy. What about you? What have you been doing? Did you play in the challenge or anything cool recently?
I played in the challenge. I got a 5-2 with elves. I literally don't remember anything about it.
Did you play some green creatures and turn them sideways?
Yeah, that's basically the way it goes. You turn them sideways and you turn them sideways again, then they become really big.
Upside down and back to front.
It plays so much more like Maverick these days. Like the first time I played a build that was heavily leaning on the Reclaimer side of things, I actually named the deck Maverick Elves in my MTGO file, and it somewhat reminds me of Value Elves, which is like a deck I played a long time ago, but that doesn't really use Glimpse.
You mean Chaos stuff?
No, there were two different ones. So there were Chaos Elves is the one that doesn't use Natural Order. That's the one
Beast Whisperer.
Huh?
Because that Beast Whisperer, I think.
No. Okay.
That's Chaos.
I'm
going to let you talk about it. Yeah.
So the elves micro universe, whatever, the cinematic universe of elves is like we have elves, and then in 2016, was it 16 or 17? I think it was 16. I won MK Milan with a build called Chaos Elves, and Chaos is because it lacks order as a natural order, so it was a very, very mid-range focus build of elves, but didn't use natural order. Because natural order, is still a liability against blue decks. I mean, much less now that we have Allosaurus Shepherd. Shout outs to my boy. But yeah, that's the one. Then I had a build that was called Value Elves. I never really won a big tournament with it. It also was more like a clearly suboptimal list of elves, but it was a lot of fun just to try diver players because it was heavily focused on making divers' lives worse. And also,
did you have most importantly, the leaders?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, like, most importantly, to make a check pile life worse. Nice. Because it played the what are they called?
Rendre on Packmaster, I bet.
I think it might have had one.
Because I just remember that card being completely unbeatable for Shardless Bug. So
yeah, that was the original intention when I put it in there as well. Yeah, it's 4 mana, they kind of replicate. That was so good.
I think I played against elves a few times at tournaments, and you're in this position where you're like, right, everything's okay, we're all good, and then they just play this Rendre on Packmaster and put an Elvish Visionary underneath it, and you're like, oh shit, and you just stare at like this Liliana, and then they have loads of stupid 1/1s around the board, like 3 Abrupt Decays and like a Diabolic Edict, and you're just in pain.
That was such a good feeling, dude. I remember that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and to complete that, so the last iteration was Value Elves, where we used the 4 Beast Whisperer, which is like basically the ongoing glimpse. It's a 2/3 creature for 4 mana, and there were no glimpses, and I also think no natural orders in that list. So 4 Sylvan Messengers, 4 Beast Whisperers, and that deck really rather destroyed check pile and was also pretty good against Delver, and it used one of my favorite cards, Matsu Tribe Sniper.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing this. I think I remember you watching you stream this a bit, and like the deck was actually pretty good. I mean, obviously it was decent, but like it was better than I think people expected.
Yeah, the one problem was it was like horrible against anything combo. Like it was really bad against any of the combo decks.
I can see that because you can't threaten like the turn 3 kills that most elves could.
Yeah, you're basically a Maverick deck without hate bears.
Nice. Yeah.
And going back to what we originally said, so in a way, the current versions of elves that are now using Reclaimer and are putting like the glimpse aspect a bit to the side, they feel like a mishmash of all of those approaches where you try to de-emphasize natural order, try to de-emphasize glimpse, and now we're like in this interesting spot. I think I played against the regular version of elves, like the heavily combo focused one as well. No, that list I think made top 8. That's where I saw it.
Yeah, I have played a good few leagues with like the recent versions, which like Newton and you have been playing and stuff, and I felt like the play patterns changed so much. So I was natural ordering for Archon more than anything, for non-lethal one. I was winning with activating Allosaurus Shepherd more than anything else to actually close out a game, and then still relying on the best friends to kind of outgrind some decks. But it didn't feel like as reliable against control now, because they do just pull ahead with like dress down into Uro stuff, and it feels very different, but still very good.
Yeah, one day they're gonna print an elf that actually is able to kill. I mean, there are elves that can kill creatures. They're just like absolutely unplayable.
Yeah. There'll be a Modern Horizons with elf themed, and elves will be completely broken.
Even more broken than right now, yeah. But the other thing I did, I played Blue Black Dane Mill with my Patreon Kevin.
You need to tell people what Dane Mill is.
So it's just like Blue Black Mill in Legacy, and we call it Dane Mill because I think Kevin's ancestors came from Denmark, and he still feels connected to Denmark, and we're trying to make this a Danish deck.
So it's not red white colors like the flag.
Yeah,
not red white mill.
The exact opposite of that at Blue Black, I guess.
Okay.
But we did really well. We played 4-1. Can you imagine like somebody going 4-1 with Mill and Legacy?
Honestly, if you told me, like, I can hear the excitement in your voice, so I was going to guess a 3-2. So 4-1's really good, actually.
Yeah, we are still trying to get that 5-0. The problem was, like, this deck literally can't beat Burn. Like, Burn fights for a resource we have 20 of, and we fight for a resource they have 60 of, and it's not even close.
I would never have guessed Burn either. Like, I can see why it's impossible to win, but there's always like the cool fringe brew, like, is 4-0 in a league, and then you just get like fucking lava spiked out. It's just such a classic ending.
That was great. It was great. We played against two different versions of Painter, and we managed to beat Cheskai Stoneblade and Esper Blade.
Nice. I can see you being good against the slow, grindy.
Yeah, you have no idea, right? I guess you do, now that you mentioned it. But when you play against Esper Blade and you mill like all their equipments, like even if you just mill the Caldra complete, they are sitting there with like a 1-2 and a 2-1 and a 1-2, and you have like crabs that are 0-2 and 0-3, and they're like, oh shit, how am I ever gonna win? Because they didn't even have chase. Like the only thing they had that could get past was like True Name Nemesis. And I mean, that's still a long grind to get there. That's just slow.
Yeah. Nice. Crabs are the best blockers. Crabs and turtles, like, they're just holding down the fort for days. In Modern, they play Summing Evidence, which makes a 0-3 crab and a clue token, and it's like the best card against Ragavan. It just blocks it for days. It's really funny.
You know, the Legacy Mill deck is one crab away. Like right now we have 2, so we can play 8. We are one crab away from being actually like a lower end tier 2 deck.
12 crabs is insane and would be like broken in Modern and probably Legacy. 12 crabs would be nuts. I guess if the third crab like still only targets your opponent, it would just be good.
Oh yeah, but because it's also used in Hogak, right? Oh,
yeah.
So
well, because you can't use the new crab because it only targets the opponent.
Oh yeah. Well, we do. We make full use of all the crabs.
You're doing it the fair way.
Nothing goes to waste in this rhyme.
Yeah, true.
Cool. So today, everybody knows what we're going to be talking about, right? We're going to be talking about the Ragavan, the monkey biting the dust. It's all over for Mr. Ragavan. He had a pretty good run. He will be fondly remembered by actually not that many people, I guess.
No, I don't think he'll be fondly remembered by anyone.
Yeah, but first of all, we're going to talk about 2 quick other things. One of them is going to be the Saturday Legacy Challenge, which Wizards made some changes to. And the very first thing is going to be the content policy that Starcitygames has revised. So I think ever since I got into Magic almost, Starcitygames has been this place where you go for tournament advice, for any kind of competitive play related stuff. Given I went to it a lot less during the last couple of years, I think that drifted more over to either Channel Fireball or straight up people publishing on you know, some other independent platform. But they were still like relevant in that sense. And now Starcitygames has released a statement, and to sum it up is they are giving away all the competitive content, all the tournament-focused content, and are focusing more on, well, they don't call it casual content, but that's what it pretty much boils down to, right? Is that how you understood it as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's reading between the lines, but the lines are pretty clear, and I don't think they're trying to make it ambiguous either. Like, that's what it is. They'll be doing... I don't know if they're keeping limited. I don't know if you saw that. Like, limited is still pretty popular, but yeah, in a sense, like, I'm similar for you. Like, I don't remember the actual time it went up now, but I remember every day, like, refreshing the SCG page to get the new articles and stuff. And I don't read many these days, but that's just, like, you know, after, not that I don't need them, but, like, I've just stopped reading them. But for younger people, they're definitely a huge part of getting better at Magic and learning. So it's sad. Like, I'm sure we all get it. We understand. There's not really in tournaments. People don't want the competitive stuff as much, but I'm sure there was a whole swath of people still reading it and like subscribed for that. It's just a sign of things to come as well, right? It's this toppling of dominoes, which started with Wizards like gutting OP, as people say, which for good reason they do say, because that's what's happening. And then this is just another domino falling in the, like, you know, if we're taking away the competitive articles, because there's no competitive events, and then like in the future there's probably not going to be no PT or GPs, like what is the future? Like there's this uncertainty and we don't really know if this stuff is going to come back. Like I could see SCG completely bringing it back again a few years down the line if there was, you know, another company that made events again of the same, like, you know, size of GPs or SCG Opens stuff. But right now they don't know, we don't know. Doesn't look great, to be honest. It's a pretty bleak news, and that is it.
Yeah, just to cite some of the players that have actually let go from their writing stuff. It's Todd Anderson, Paulo Vito Damarosa, Brad Nelson, Brian Gottlieb, Ari Lex, Ross Merriam, Corey Baumeister. So, and of course, like most importantly, the content creator Cedric Phillips. I think he chose to go away on his own terms, and I think it's even mentioned in the article that made it even harder for them to continue.
They kind of blamed him, which I thought was bullshit, to be honest. Like they said, "Oh yeah, without him, we can't really do it." Like, I mean, I just don't buy that. Like, you can obviously manage content creators if you wanted it, but it felt like a bit of a, not essentially cheap shot at him, but it was just a cheap way to get rid of responsibility of having to pass this on. Could have just been more honest about it. But yeah, he did leave a little while ago.
I'm curious what he's going to be up to, because he's basically one of the, is he like the most established personality in Magic that's not known for like but he does have a lot of, what is it, like proto finishes, something like he really made a name for himself as a player, but even more so as just like Mr. Magic almost.
Yeah, he was very known in Magic, like he was the Kithkin guy.
True. Oh, dude, I remember that. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I remember watching him play Painter on SCG years ago. He was always rocking mono. Actually, I don't know if it was mono red or Shortcake. Anyway, he was always a Painter guy.
Mono. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
I think it was mono red. So I definitely have a lot of memories of him like playing Magic and being amazing at it. But yeah, he just blew up for his commentary on the SCG tour and managing of it eventually, for the best reason. Like him and Pat Sullivan are just the best commentators bar none. And that was one of the saddest things to read when they're both leaving, because that was like that was when you knew that the SCG tour is not going to come back the way we hoped or the way it was before. Because without them, the other commentators are great, but they are just the golden couple.
I definitely agree. One thing though that always felt a little bit weird to me with regards to like how Magic is set up as a competitive game online with regards to the entire ecosystem, which includes strategy articles. When I look at other games, other competitive games that people mostly play online, that's just like the unique quirk about Magic, that you can play it online and offline. There are websites that publish strategy articles, that publish competitive, like articles catered towards competitive players. But their articles are basically never written by the pros. They are always written by like people who either make a name for themselves as an analyst, or they're just like written by somebody nobody knows, who just randomly submits an article about, I don't know, how to play StarCraft well, how to do this aspect of Street Fighter well. But you barely ever see the actual pros, and the bigger the game gets, the less likely it is that you will actually see a pro write a competitive article geared towards helping other people in the game. Whereas in Magic, that's the most normal thing forever. And like even the people at the very top of the game would constantly write articles all the time.
I guess there's a bunch of reasons there, but I guess part of it is Magic is still very much a social game. Like the games you're talking about, they're online based, they're not in person based enough. And like, sure, at the very top of the competitive game, you have people trying their best to win, as you would expect. But you always hear like stories of everyone at the top being friends as well and knowing each other. And I think that trickles down through every single thing, down to the PTQs and wherever, where people are trying to win, but at the same time help each other. And that just comes with in-person games.
I kind of disagree with that. I disagree with that quite a bit, actually.
I think there's something to making a name for yourself as well that people want.
Yeah, but you would do that in tournaments. But yeah, I guess with like people, the one thing I'm seeing is that's very, very different from what pros and other games do, is that for Magic, writing still used to be like your main source of income. I saw Brian Kibler write about this early on when he was like one of the top money earners in the game. By far his biggest income were still his writing gigs. And I think it's quite different for people in other games, just because they usually earn like a salary from a team, and I don't really think that anybody in Legacy ever, or Legacy, I wish. in Magic really earned like a monthly salary. Like if they did, it was probably tied towards having to write. Which
I guess you're right. It's just a different setup. I think that is again partly to do with online games versus a paper-dominated game, where it's just a different thing. Like what are teams getting from Magic even at its height? Like they're getting the rewards of prize money, sure, but like it's never been a kind of a public facing thing. So I think the money making thing for articles, right, is selling cards. So it's not going to be a team. It's going to be a card trader that's going to be one of these.
Oh, that's actually interesting. If other games actually allowed third parties to introduce items and sell them, which is basically the Magic secondary market, right? Mm-hmm. Then maybe the very pros that's when they I'm just saying Street Fighter or StarCraft or whatever it be, maybe even League of Legends. I'm just not mentioning League of Legends because I have no idea how it works. So maybe then there would be more incentive for websites to pay pros enough money to like put their name out there. Because if no pro ever writes about the game, then if one pro comes out and writes a competitive article about the game, that would be a huge draw in another game. Mm-hmm. And that would only really make sense if the company could sell something.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I doubt SCG or Channel Fireball are actually making the money they pay the writers based on like subscriptions. Maybe it's close, but it doesn't seem like a ton, honestly.
Yeah, I just know what I earned when I wrote for them. Wrote for them. I wrote 2 articles.
Yeah, I have no idea how much people are paid, honestly.
But I guess I can say it now. Nobody cares. I think I earned $200 for 2 articles. And I was very much a nobody back then. I had just won Bazaar of Moxen, and they gave me 200. And you can imagine, like, if like a big juggernaut like PV comes in, he probably earns way more than that.
Okay,
and so it's not that surprising that those pros would say they still earned the vast majority of the money writing. Yeah, but now that SCG actually mentions, right, that their content department was. Where is it?
I didn't actually read their article, just saw the too long didn't read.
Perfectly. I even copy pasted it.
So, well, let me read part of the quote from this article, because I should have read it. I went over the too long didn't read, but what they said is, in recent years, the overall effectiveness of our publishing such content has decreased substantially due to a lack of in-person events. Wizards of the Coast significantly reducing their investments in both competitive Magic the Gathering play and the concept of the professional Magic player, and a variety of other situations that our content creators, editorial team, and companies simply have no control over. During this time, we tried to stick with a slightly modified version of our same content publishing model, but doing so resulted in our content publishing division losing a substantial amount of money in each of the last 2 years. Sticking with that same plan for a third year wasn't an option, and in order to address the issue, I realized that we were going to have to make some significant changes to our content publishing model. Unfortunately, I also realized that doing so would require making some incredibly difficult choices. So, yeah, essentially what they're saying is they've lost money over the last 2 years, a big part due to COVID and no paper tournaments. That makes sense at a level 1. But I think the big thing is, like Magic Online organized play just stopping essentially and moving to online. But you can still write articles for online, obviously. But there's just been a huge drop off the cliff of interest in the competitive scene, basically, and professional Magic. Like, there's nothing to aspire to. There's nothing to play for. People don't care about doing well as much. It's now a hobby game rather than a path to play at the higher levels. There was always these quotes of play the game, see the world, which became play Hearthstone, see the world, and stuff like that.
Or like play the game, see another chat room, get invited to yet another Discord.
And now it's just play the game and
play the game, pay the bill.
yeah. Play the game, buy your wild cards. So I can see why they're making the decision. It's just
it's just like it just reminds me of that's why I brought it up in the other games. Now that SCG is not really like selling all that much stuff anymore, we see the pros move away, and I see the parallel to other games where like the big news websites don't sell anything in the first place except for ad space, I guess.
Yeah.
And if you want to sell ad space, it's much better you bring in like the casual crowd, which is going to read your Cube articles and your EDH stuff, because that's everything that SCG is going to keep. Yeah. And I think it makes a lot of sense from that perspective.
And the bottom line is, like, they're right. People just aren't playing Magic in paper, and they're not selling cards. I mean, just myself, I was buying tons and tons and tons when everything was normal before COVID, and we had tournaments. Like, we still have tournaments, obviously. I'm going to a sweet one next week, actually. But like, it's just nowhere near the same as before. I would buy, like, I remember the Pioneer GPs just before COVID hit. I bought like 5 or 6 decks, like, in preparation to have it for testing and stuff. Like, it's fun doing things like that, like being super invested in a hobby. It was really cool. And now I'm just like, I've bought some Mastercores and some Spirit Mongers and stuff. Yeah, SCG aren't making money off people like this anymore. So, yeah.
But it's actually kind of cool that you're buying those. Did you actually buy Spirit Monger because it has been a meme for the last couple of weeks?
Has it been a meme?
Well, I tried to make it one. Looks like I failed.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I haven't seen that. No, I played it last night. It was sick.
Or maybe it actually spread around to you and you didn't even know the origin of the meme. That's when, you really made it.
Yeah.
That's
I am the meme, etc. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, let's see how content creation and content publishing, first of all, is going to work out in the future. I think a lot of that is going to either move to Patreon or people. Yeah, it's going to depend a lot on where all these people are going to find a new home. And that is not necessarily going to be written Magic content.
Patreon is a good point, actually. It's pretty popular. And it shows that people are willing to pay for this kind of stuff. But with Patreon, you can go, that it's going directly to the players, and you really pick and choose like what you want, where you want it. So I go back and forth to, like subscribe to a few people, and you can like just go and subscribe to someone for a couple of weeks, like learn about the deck and stuff. But you find the actual like top players of that deck that focus on that and stuff. So it's a business model for these single players that can get them probably more money than they would get making writing some articles for a website every now and then. So maybe that's where we're going, and I don't mind it.
Yeah, the one thing that SCG was doing for them was the entire marketing thing, right? Because there's probably like really good writers out there that nobody's ever heard of.
Nobody did it better than SCG, like making the players' names. So
yeah, that's the model everybody's trying to copy now. Right?
Yeah.
Cool. So before we talk about Ragavan, one more change that was very welcome by the community, even though it kind of flew under the radar, is the Saturday Legacy Challenge is gonna be changed in the way that it only has a minimum player number of 32. It used to be 64, and it hadn't fired since like last summer, I believe. So Wizards is finally going to make the change, and they're going to be like, 32 players, Legacy, you can do that. And in turn, they're also going to decrease the payouts to the top 32. So very obviously, right, this weekend's going to see like 100 something players, because everybody's going to be excited about the Ragavan ban. Everybody's going to be excited that the challenge is going to fire again.
I bet it's going to hit 64, you said, and you can spin so many narratives on that. You can just choose whatever you want. Yeah, people hated Ragavan so much, now they come out in droves. Or yeah, people like, now that they know it's going to fire, they'll come out and play it. It's probably a mix of both of them. But
I'm definitely going to try to make it if I don't have other plans.
Yeah, I'm going to play it, I think. It's still the same time, right?
It's still the same time, yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. I should be there. Let's see if I wake up in time.
Cool.
It's only midday on a Saturday. I should be fine. Famous
easy,
last words.
Yeah, in Europe, you're just spoiled, right? Both Legacy challenges are still at reasonable hours, whereas in Japan, you're like, I think screwed either way.
I have it so good. It's unfair. Should we talk about the monkey in the room? Or not in the room, actually?
Not in the room anymore, right? He was here for a couple of hot minutes.
How long do you think... I actually looked it up earlier. How long do you think Ragavan was in the format?
How long was Ragavan in the format? I'm trying to remember. Was it like last spring?
Yeah, I think it came out in June, so like 6 months.
Okay. I still remember the episode where we did it, where we compared it to Dragon Raid's Channeler, and I think people at the time were thinking that Ragavan was going to be better than Dragon Raid's Channeler, but I think...
I definitely said Ragavan is better, and I still believe it.
I mean, it is better, right?
Yeah.
But Dragon Raid's Channeler doesn't take away from Dragon Raid's Channeler being like... No. The card, like people are talking about whether Delver is going to go up to 4 Delvers again. They already take it as a given that Dragon Raid's Channeler is going to be a 4 of. And I think that says everything you need to know about Dragon Raid's Channeler.
Well, it was 4 of already, so why would you cut some?
Yeah, true. It's so good.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's better than Delver, but yeah. I don't know, like, if it's just so good with Murktide as well. Like, if Murktide was banned, theoretically, Dragon Raid Channeler would get a lot worse.
That's true.
So
it's like a major source of why people can sometimes like lose their graveyard, and then like literally 2 turns, sometimes even the next turn, you have the dragon coming down.
I think it would actually lose a lot of power if Murktide was banned. Like, it would be worse than Delver for sure.
Vice versa as well, right? Well, without Dragon Rage General, once you deal with the first Murktide, the second Murktide's gonna have a lot of a harder time coming down.
Yeah. The design team were just like, yeah, we know what will make these 2 cards good together. Yeah.
Eternal people will love them.
Yeah.
So Monkey is gone, and Wizards actually provided a couple of reasons for that. So I think Wizards in general has been a lot better about communicating bans, but also not banning things. Did you see the pop-up panel video they made? Yeah,
it was amazing. Like, the insight they gave and a huge description of what they looked into, why it didn't work. We didn't get that for this ban thing, but it was also like, wasn't as hyped up. We don't have the panel as Pauper does, and it wasn't done by Gavin Verhey, who's just incredible. Yeah. So I still liked what they said about Legacy, though. Like, I think a lot of people were expecting more and hoping for more, and I get a lot of the frustrations and stuff about it, but I'm just going to pull up the quote they said, because I think this is super important to highlight. That they said basically they're going to keep an eye on the format and might make further changes. So they said, quote, "We'll be keeping an eye on how the Legacy format continues to evolve in the coming weeks and are willing to make further adjustments soon if needed. However, we feel this is a large change and would like to see how the metagame adapts before considering if other changes are necessary." They've said, like, coming weeks. That's really soon. So that to me implies that they were very, very heavily thinking that they might ban further things. So my hunch is that they were looking at Murktide as well, or hope or hunch. And they're saying we're willing to make further adjustments. So I like this way they've done things. I like just banning Ragavan, just banning 1 card and saying, look, we know that it might not be enough. That's what they're doing. Like, I keep seeing these like comments from people all over the internet saying, oh yeah, well, the Blue-Red Delver is obviously going to be the best deck. Like, yeah, that's what they're telling us. They're telling us they know the deck is still going to be the best thing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that Blue-Red Delver is the best deck in the format. It's a really good policeman. I think it's a healthy thing, even though I and many people are probably a bit tired of it. But I'm really glad that with that snippet, they are saying, like, look, we know that this might not be enough and we might do something else in the coming weeks. Just chill, see what happens with the Ragavan ban. And I think it's a pretty big toning down of the deck, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think we've never really seen that before, where Wizards was like outright saying, we have made a change, and if it becomes required, we will make a change soon. Like, the soon is the one thing that I'm seeing. I'm like, whoa, this oozes action.
I've never seen that either. It might have happened before and we're just forgetting, but I've never seen it before either. That's what really stood out to me. It wasn't the ban of Ragavan. It wasn't the lack of other bans. It was that sentence. It was just like, okay, this for me feels like they do understand what's going on. And this is the first time they're not like preemptively banning something. Like, for example, Zerda was banned for like having a high rate in leagues, even though it wasn't really played very much. And I can't remember some other examples. There's probably a bunch, but it was like, there's a preeminent thing. But here, I guess there's not an immediate rush. The only rush in banning things is enough people get sick of the format and stop playing. So it's a real concern, but it's not like they have to ban something before 3 months or whatever. Like, they can let us chill for a month or two, see how Delver is without Ragavan, and go from there. And I'm fine with that.
Cool. So should we quickly go over the reasons they gave us why they are actually touching Ragavan? Ragavan sounds so dirty, dude.
The cheeky monkey.
Yeah. So the very first reason they cited is basically the league win percentage, the non-mirror win percentage, which is important because otherwise it gravitates towards 50%. So the league win percentage in non-mirrors was 56%, and time and again we have seen that Wizards draws the line at 55%. Yeah. Like, whenever they ban something that was like too powerful, they would always cite that 55% threshold, and looks like Blue-Red Delver is sitting just above that. And
I think Ren and 6 Delver was 55, so this is even a bit higher. And I'm so glad they said this, because this win percentage was such a topic of discourse on like Twitter especially. Like, God, there'd be a challenge where Delver got ranched and it'd be like 44%, and everyone like, see, Delver's fine. And then there'd be a challenge where it was like 65%, and it's like, oh, bah. It was obvious to everyone else that wasn't getting involved and wading in the mud between the conversations there that obviously, like, you can't take a single sample size like that. But they've come out, they've given us the win rate. 56 is very high. It does warrant action, especially considering they also said it has twice as many trophies as the next highest archetype over the past few weeks. And they say the past few weeks, but it's probably a long time running. Like, twice as many trophies is quite a big difference.
Yeah. So the win percentage, it's funny you mentioned it, right? Because everybody was constantly talking about that. And I have it on good authority that Stephen Hawking, before he died, he was actually trying to figure out the win percentage of Blue Red Diver and leagues. But we never get to that. But yeah, it's one of the biggest things. So it's awesome when Wizards releases these stats, just so we can settle that and not be like, oh, it actually was like 49%. Like, what was it when they banned our modern card? That was like 49%.
It was in Virtue of Truth. It was 49%.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely adored that deck. It's one of my favorite of all time I've played. And so that sucked. That was the precedent they set for saying, look, if people really hated playing that deck and it was legal for a long time and it was the best thing for a long time. And that's part of accepting that you play this game. I don't have a problem with there being enough community outrage that it bans something. People play this game for fun, especially now with like competitive being gutted. Like, you know, I don't think you should need to have this super high win rate to get something banned if no one likes the card. I don't think anyone likes Ragavan, right?
There's probably going to be some monkey pirate enthusiasts just like, no.
Actually, at my local game store last night, shout outs to Simo. He's a guy who plays in London. He played a pirate stompy deck a few weeks ago, and he was like, oh, well, my Ragavans are not good now. So there's some good pirate players out there. Oh my God.
Yeah. Awesome guy. Shout outs.
Yeah, it's great.
The one thing I want to mention is the number of trophies. That's the one thing where I was like, yeah, that's not that relevant to me. At least not in the winning department, just because like so many people played Blue Red Diver, and we will see that when we move into a couple of other stats we have pulled up here in a minute. What it means to me that they won twice as many trophies as the next highest archetype just means to me that a lot of people were playing the deck. And that by itself is almost like problematic to Wizards, I guess. At least it sounded like it.
It's a mix of both things, right? It's a lot of people playing the deck and it's winning enough. It doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things, as you say. I agree. But it's still like, you know, showing that it's clearly on top of everything.
Something I also want to mention, actually I didn't put it in the show notes, but I remember them saying it. And that was the part about snowballing. Because snowballing is something that it's a lot harder to measure. You could probably write algorithms where you're like, oh, if Monkey connects in a game, what percentage of games end in the next 3 turns or something. But that's not really something that I would expect Wizards to do. Yeah. So instead, they are mentioning it. Let me pull it up here. Here.
There's actually a great tweet from Dom Harvey saying, he says, when you never get tired of typing the same paragraph, and he just shows the banned announcements for Ragavan, Dreadhorde, Renin 6, and Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, it's just like that's the nature of Legacy. If you have like cheap stuff early on,
they're getting banned for the same reason, so it's fine.
So the snowballing thing, I want to mention this. So they mention, in addition to the high league win rates and large tournament metagame population, we've heard much discussion about the tendency of games to snowball from an early Ragavan, backed up by protective spells like Daze and Force of Will. Most people that I heard talking about this were talking about, oh, this means like Daze and Force of Will are safe, which is also going to be another thing that we will talk about later on during the listener questions. What I actually got from that was that they are saying, we've heard much discussion about the tendency of games to snowball, though that gives, like, to me, that gives me the feedback that, hey, we are being heard on mostly Twitter, right? Or when Anurag writes his letter, his annual letter almost at this point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool that they heard these tendencies, because apparently that's not something they get from the data, but they hear from players that the game snowball. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Just by the nature of how
I think they are a lot more clued into what players like and don't like than we expect or assume. It's very easy to see discourse on Twitter and wherever and just like get general feeling for stuff. So I think they do monitor this kind of thing, and yeah, it does show that they do. So.
You know what I'm wondering? If I was Wizards, would I ever want to properly disclose who really are the people who make the decisions? Because we think it's like Ian Duke, maybe Aaron Forsythe, and Gavin like already said that he's not involved with that. Like, imagine if they clearly said, this is our panel of people who make those decisions. They would be swarmed now.
Well, Forsythe basically said that today. He's been very active on Twitter today and putting out some very interesting things, which I think we'll probably touch more on 2 of them. He also put one out because there's a lot of hit back about like modern not even getting a mention in the BNR. And today he put out a tweet saying, modern players, we hear you. We didn't mention Lurrus because we felt like the moment you mention a card is kind of on the watch list, then it becomes a lame duck format. And I completely agree with him here that you shouldn't say that something is on a watch list. It creates a terrible feeling in the format and people just don't want to play. So I think no news is better than like maybe news in that sense. But he put out a thing saying Lurrus is by far the card we talk about the most, and we didn't think that like it needs to be banned essentially. So
I think he also said that pot will never come back and that Twin is being discussed all the time, and that got a lot of people excited, right?
Yep. I wouldn't mind if that happened as well. But it's cool. Like basically, so we got tons of information today, right? So he said that, which is cool, that like there are unbans being discussed in Modern, because there hasn't been something unbanned in Modern for a long time, I believe, like Golgari Grave Troll or something. I can't remember now.
Hasn't Golgari Grave Troll actually been unbanned twice or something? Like it keeps bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, it was unbanned twice and banned quickly after the second time or something.
Or actually, no, wait, it's the other way around. It was banned twice, and after the first ban was unbanned, and then it was banned again. It keeps bouncing.
Yeah. But like it was unbanned just after Faithless Looting got printed. So obviously things went wrong there. Like Dredge was absurd. But anyway, it's just really cool to hear that they're talking about all of these things, right? And Gavin said a thing. Do we have it in the show notes? So I don't like. Yeah,
if you scroll to the bottom, I added it.
We can. So basically, he says. Actually, Phil from Eternal Durdles said, "Hey Gavin, there seems to be a communication gap on which cards by Wizards of the Coast considers pillars of the Legacy format. Could you tell us if Daze and Ponder are considered unbannable the way Force of Will, Brainstorm, and Wasteland presumably are?" And Gavin says, very interestingly, first, I don't think anything is truly unbannable. That is already a big thing. That said, yeah, classic staples are less likely to go because of their history. It's all a sliding scale depending on the card. I can't help with the specifics. I don't work for play design and wouldn't want to speak for them here. But this is like a lovely insight into how they're working, and I personally am really glad to hear it. I am a big fan of keeping classic staples in formats. Like Daze is the perfect example, right? This is what we're getting at when he says Daze and Ponder. And part of the whole ban Daze thing was, they're going to keep printing these busted new cards and we can't ban them forever. Well, I think we can, and they should stop printing them. And I'm not going to shed a tear for the Ragavans and the Red and Sixes and the Dreaded Arcanists. I don't care if they get banned. I like the old cards that actually have interesting non-snowbally play patterns. So that's my beginning of a rant, and I'm cutting myself off.
I guess at this point makes sense. We have a listener question from Kinda who's asking if we were on the Legacy panel, which of the cards, like those classic cards, would we declare off limits? Or I guess you don't declare them, you get just make recommendations to Wizards. You already mentioned Daze. Phil also mentioned Force of Will, or Ponder, Brainstorm, Wasteland. Are there any other cards that you mentioned that are untouchable?
So like he says, so Gavin said, I don't think there's anything that's truly unbannable. This is different to what like communication we've had about Vintage, where they've said like Workshop is a pillar, and I agree with that thing as well. Like, I don't care if all the Lodestone Golems have to get restricted. It is what it is. But I think Force of Will is like the most obvious thing, and it should never ever be banned because it's the sacred glue that holds our format together. I'm of the opinion that Brainstorm is actually incredibly good for the format as well. I think it's obviously like overpowered, and if Legacy was like being tweaked to be quote unquote the best format it could be, or if they were trying to make it the top competitive format, then we'd have to like reassess everything, right? Like fetch lands are too good, they're broken. Brainstorm is too good, it's broken. But like I always believe that the blue shell, while it continues to be the best thing in the format and probably will be for the rest of time, I'm just terrified of how strong the combo decks in this format are, and I think the cantrips in Force of Will and Daze are like pretty key to keeping these combo decks playable, good, but in check. There's back and forth because cards like Brainstorm let you like get Thought Seized, and then you can play some cantrips and find the hate again, and then fight through all these powerful discard spells. Like the deck that's always jumping to my mind is Reanimator. I think Force of Will is completely necessary to keep that the Turmoil Winds in check, but the cantrips are necessary to keep the redundancy in check. And I think the moment you start like trying to make a format without Brainstorm, the whole thing just crumbles, in my opinion. And I don't know, it's just such a Pandora's box to open. And I don't.
One thing that scares me is that Basically, I'm wondering, is Griselbrand already a classic in Legacy? Like, it came out in, what was it, like 2012? That's 10 years ago. And if it is, we're never going to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think like Reanimator would be completely unplayable without it now. I don't like the play patterns of it.
Let's make that a thing.
Yeah, I don't like the play patterns of it. It's like, yeah, if it comes to play, you're dead. But I mean, the like swords just eat the Archon, whatever. Like, I don't know. Can you imagine Reanimator without Griselbrand? I think it'd be unplayable.
I can. It's just like a matter of like what you expect. I could be wrong. Could be like completely unplayable. But I think we're also like more likely to call something completely unplayable than during like quote unquote the golden age of Legacy, because that's the one thing I keep going back to always, is that during that time, most combo decks were not a joke, but I want to say like 60 to 70% even of people playing combo were not in it to win it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like combo decks were much more fragile. They existed. You would get like destroyed by them if you had absolutely nothing, and but it's kind of hard to describe it to somebody who didn't play back then. I'm trying to remember what were like the top combo decks in Legacy like in 2010. Like people played.
It's like non-mystical tutor, Reanimator, and
stuff. That was the one that was banned, right? Because Blue-Black Reanimator, that was really, really broken.
Yeah.
But looking back, there were some show and tell variants, but they played like Progenitus and Woodfall Primus, and that really wasn't a thing until Omniscience became a thing. Yeah, I remember 2012, Omniscience made show and tell a real deck. Like show and tell started showing up in 2010. I very much remember 2010 was the year that show and tell broke out in Legacy.
With Dreamhorse as well?
Yeah, Dreamhorse. Literally, Dreamhorse was the deck, like not the card, but people discovered Dreamhorse as a hard castable thing that you can also show and tell into. And from there, show and tell became a thing with like Woodfall Primus and Progenitus. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's such a weird, different day. Like, it was just like a burn deck in a way, like glorified.
Yeah. The first thing that actually caused trouble for people, like the mid-range non-blue crowd, was Hive Mind. I remember Hive Mind, I think, was it top 8 or top 16? I don't remember. GP Amsterdam 2011. That's the first time we realized, okay, combo is good, but not totally broken. And also Reanimator was still beatable, except for Blue-Black Reanimator. Blue-Black Reanimator, I keep going back to that. Like, that was probably like the best combo deck in the early to mid history of the format. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the...
Storm was always around as well, right?
Yeah, Storm was around, but... For Storm, okay, that's the one thing to be said about Storm. It was built horribly a lot of times. It took forever for people to actually adapt to like putting Gitaxian Probe and Cable Therapy in the deck. Like those two cards were legal for quite a while in the deck, and people just didn't play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess it was always just seen as like this cool thing you do rather than big potential.
Yeah, and people are probably just uncomfortable using Cable Therapy when they don't have. But yeah, that's very, very, very much of a tangent. I guess if you want to understand my ideal Legacy, then you have to understand that my ideal Legacy is one where combo is playable, but you have to be less prepared for combo than you have to right now if you're a non-blue deck. And that's basically that's Julian's world.
Cool. And which cards would you argue off limits? I'll just add that, like, I think the blue shell is an important part of the thing. I also think stuff like Lion's Eye Diamond and Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal are like off limits for me as well.
Sounds pretty much right?
Yeah, if something like Underworld Breach comes along and breaks them, then just fucking ban Underworld Breach as they did. It's fine. Yeah,
show and tell is like definitely off limits, right? And unless... But actually, now we can still keep doing the thing, right? Where we ban the broken thing and we keep around the enabler.
Yeah.
By the way, hashtag survival died for this.
I would, if it wasn't for the money cost, I would unban survival in a heartbeat. Personally, I think it's fine.
Yeah. It's just like interesting because that's when the policy used to be different, right? Back then, it was always talked about whether the enabler should be banned or the broken thing. In that case, Vengewine. And back then, we banned the enabler. But now we are, especially when it comes to non-combo, we just ban the broken thing. And that's, I think, what we're going to be doing moving forward.
Yeah, I hope they continue. Now you see, like, what's happened to survival. Vengevine's never done much else. And we all like, are nostalgic for this cool card that's lived on the ban list all its life.
I wonder whether survival would have been way more broken down the line.
I don't know. Like, I just don't see it.
Me neither. Me neither. Definitely neither. But I'm curious.
Yeah, people would have like it could have continued to be really good, and then there's always this like dangerous thing of like when survival looked like the card they should ban, and if they banned Vengevine instead, and then like they'd be like, oh well, obviously you should have banned survival if it didn't work. A more recent example of this is they banned Bridge from Below rather than Hogak in Modern. And that was obvious. And they were like, well, obviously you should ban Hogak. And I think they're worried about that reaction again. And like, obviously they should have banned Hogak. But yeah. So here we are. We could go on about unbans. I think they could unban almost everything.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna have another episode on that. And
yeah.
It's just like bans and unbans is always such a popular topic, especially unbans. And
yeah,
maybe we're gonna have a dedicated
unbans
episode on
popular.
that.
I don't mind talking about unbans. I find ban talk when it's all like speculative, and especially when there's like mudslinging back and forth, it's a bit much. But
know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So going back to the Ragavan ban, something Wizards also mentioned is that their Eternal Weekend data was inconclusive, because a lot of people have been asking for, hey, you told us that you will make changes after Eternal Weekend. So there was a lot of disappointment, because I think Eternal Weekend happened, was it like in September or something? Yeah. So quite a while ago.
Yeah, they could have communicated better. This is a bit of a drop in my opinion, but if they said like, oh, we looked at this and it was inconclusive, I don't know if that sends a good message. Maybe it does, actually. It's okay.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think when it came to Astrolabe, they specifically mentioned that the data is just not there yet to ban it, which among the community created this feeling of, okay, we all gotta play Astrolabe decks now and crush so they can just have the data to do it.
I remember that. It was like a community-driven thing. Yeah.
You know, if we get like enough players on board, we can like get them to ban the craziest cards. It's just like put what's a weird card? Put Chase in the sideboard of your burn deck and do well with it. And then afterwards, like, oh, Chase is showing up in all these winning deck lists. Must be really good.
If you could ban any one card right now on the spot, no questions asked, and no one remembers it existed, what would you do?
Grizzlebrand. It's the original sin of Legacy. Okay. That there's, I mean. I don't want to sound like a broken record when I talk about like the great catastrophe of like the end of 2011
of Innistrad.
Innistrad block, especially ever since Restart. Nothing. Yeah. It all changed when the Innistrad nation attacked.
Yeah, the worst thing is Innistrad was like probably the worst limited formats of all time, and so they just gave us this horrible set.
Oh, was it? I thought people loved it. No, I had no idea.
No, it was horrific. It was like. Blue-green was completely broken, and you could have 5 people drafting blue-green at the table, and they would all still win. It was pretty funny.
Sounds exactly like, yeah.
There's your snippet. Anyway, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, we went back and we took a look at the win percentages of Eternal Weekend. Shoutouts to Chodai and his crew who put this together. And it looks like Blue Red Diver had a win percentage during all the 3 Eternal Weekends combined of right around 53%. So I don't want to be like in a position where I'm like, if it only like won a couple more matches, but I can see why to Wizards this was inconclusive, especially since there were a couple decks that did better. Most notably, Green White Depth did better. It looks like Doomsday did better as well.
Blue Zenith.
Blue Zenith. Yeah, Blue Zenith is the one that nobody really talks about. Like, I think we've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast, but somehow it still flies under the radar. That's the 80-card Yorion deck, right?
It's a weird one because it did really well at the those events. I think also a lot of the time in the hand of like Magic Online grinders that don't specifically play Legacy unless they want to or have to, and then it's just kind of dropped off again. I don't know. It's weird. It's a good deck, really good.
Yeah, it's just like EDH and Legacy. That's what I keep going back to. It looks so ugly, but I guess it attracts people who just like want these nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Well, as far as nitty gritty, Blue always go like Blue is still Blue. So
well, it's cool. Like you just have all the really good blue cards and the good white removal, and then you have the Green Sun Zenith package, which is insanely powerful. Like you have access to your Scavenging Ooze, your Collector Roof, your Leovold, and then a Primeval Titan as the top end for Field of the Dead. It's just a really powerful package to have, and then Ramp in your Arbor. It's just, I think it's clever deck building. It's putting 2 strategies together that are both upping your resiliency and upping your consistency. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm gonna give it a try at some point in my life.
At some point in my life, I thought you were gonna say like, you know, your classic Julian. Oh, I get really excited by decks on the stream. I want to go and play a league afterwards. No. This is like 5 years time.
Yeah, it almost sounded like when people say, you know, maybe I'm gonna try drugs like at some point in my life.
Look, it's not a super exciting deck unless someone's really into this style of playing. And those people.
Yeah, that's what people say about heroin.
I'm not trying to sell you on heroin here. I'm just talking about Blue Zenith.
You start with crack or something. I don't know. I have no idea how drugs work.
Hey man, you want some Blue Zenith? I got some for you.
Dude, that could actually be like a street name of a drug. Blue Zenith?
Yeah, that sounds like a party drug.
Oh, dude. Wizards would hate this.
Yeah. I'll give you some Blood Moon, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hit me up. My Doomsday just doesn't do it for me anymore.
Oh, God. Okay, that's the worst one.
Worst one yet.
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, I think we're both kind of excited. Like, I'm always excited when something gets banned. For the Ragavan one, I wasn't really pushing for it. Most importantly, I guess also because I never really felt like the decks I play are affected by it, and I have to admit I kind of enjoyed the infighting between like all the blue decks, because like I think the blue-red diver players and the Europile diver players were the ones who were affected by this the most, and I take some cruel pleasure in seeing them suffer.
Yeah, I'm happy about it too. I didn't get involved in ban talk as much as possible, but I didn't enjoy the card at all. I kind of was with you, like I think it should be banned, and I'm glad it has been, but also haven't felt strongly on it like through the whole time, if that makes sense. There's been some really frustrating games that have happened just like anecdotally where that was like such an annoying thing to hit and stuff. But I haven't felt like the cards made me want to stop playing like Oko did. Oko made me stop playing Legacy and sell like a quarter of my collection. I hated it so much. So I haven't had that visceral reaction. But I don't know. I actually like Murktide almost does that, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, I have a feeling Murktide might not be long for this world either.
Yeah, I think so as well, and I kind of hope so. I had this friend Simo. He, after his Pirate Stumpy brew, he said to me, "Callum, do you think Monkey will be banned? Should I sell them?" And I said, "Yep, absolutely." And so he sold them last week, just in time. And so last night he asked me, "Should I sell Murktides?" And I said yes. So we shall see.
Oh, dude. This is like some proper hashtag Callum finance.
Yeah. He said I've been right each time he's asked me so far, so yeah.
That's why the Queen wants to talk to you. She wants you to become like treasurer or something.
Should I short Murktides?
You imagine if the Queen was actually like super
the Queen of
involved
England
in like speculation.
Yeah.
Turns out she owns like 20% of all the Black Lotus in the world. So she wears like a necklace. Okay, never mind. To provide a proper send-off to the monkey, though, Tom the Decker in our Discord is asking, what were our favorite Ragavan moments? Do you have like specific things that came up where Ragavan stole something was the most hilarious thing ever?
It's hilarious. I've had some tilting ones. One of the most annoying ones was actually on Sunday last challenge, where it was a cool game. It was really back and forth. I'd built up a bit of a board, and they had a Ragavan, and then it was the non-Delver version, so they got a Crucible with Wasteland going. Like, that's really good. But I had one basic, and I was kind of fighting back and forth, and then I got a Saga to go off, so maybe they just didn't draw the Wasteland yet. Well, no, I Wastelanded their Wasteland, and then like cracked a Solgai Lantern. So it was a really, really interesting back and forth game. And then they played well. They found a spot where they could like E away all my construct tokens and then like play some removal spells to clear the board and start getting Ragavan through. And so my Saga was about to go off into chapter 3, but I had no other lands. So I had a hand of like 4 or 5 creatures, including like a Mother of Runes and Painter and a lot of good cards. And okay, I have 1 Aetherval in the deck I can go and get. So obviously Ragavan attacks. The first hit is a Mother of Runes, which is really good because then I can't like draw a removal spell like the whole portable hole. So I can't draw that anymore. So they play the Mother of Runes, and then my next draw is portable hole, obviously. And so my Saga cracks off, and I go and get the Aetherval. So I'm like, okay, I've got a Plains and this thing, and then they attack with Ragavan again. They hit my 1 of Pithing Needle, and I'm just like, come on.
Oh, that's the best part, right?
Yeah.
When you stop, I was almost going to say like a combo deck with their own tools.
Yeah. They hit my 1 of Pithing Needle, and I'm just like, because I played a Mother of Runes, they bolted it, and then like I just had no lands and nothing to do, whatever. And the other worst time was where I played Lantern at my local game store, and it was our first week back playing Paper Legacy. Really excited. I thought Lantern is super janky and silly enough to play week 1, and there was two guys who I hadn't met before, so it's really cool to meet new people in London playing Legacy again, and both of them were on Blue Red Delver. So first 2 matches were like that, and I've just come from playing loads online. I'm like, oh my god, okay. And so in like game 2, one of them hits 3 discard spells in a row, like taking 2 ensnaring bridges and other good stuff. I'm like, God, fuck this. Why did I come into play? Like 3 discard spells in a row was something.
Yeah. For me, the best feeling I had was when I played Blue Red Delver against, I think it was actually Sneak and Show, and I connected with it 4 times. So I got a bunch of those treasure tokens, and I think on the 5th time I actually hit Griselbrand, and I literally got to cast Griselbrand with the treasure tokens.
It's so sick. Oh, that's cool.
Best, right?
That's like unlikely enough that it's actually cool.
I mean, that's the kind of feeling that Ragavan exists for, but not for stealing Ponder and Brainstorm and stuff like that.
I just feel like a lot of times you'd attack and then offer a trade into like a Mother of Runes style thing where you don't really want to block because if you're untapped, you're all good, and then it just like hits the Source of Plowshares and you're like, oh my god.
Punished.
I think that kind of thing happened a lot, but yeah, it can do some cool things. I was watching Ray Duke stream a couple of days ago, and for the challenge, so yeah, a few days ago, and he was playing against a Hogak deck, and Ragavan hit twice, and on the second time hit a Leyline of the Void, and so just played it. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh,
I mean, he was so amused and chat loved it, obviously. It's an entertaining card. He was just like, so I played a hard class Leyline of the Void in my deck that doesn't have black mana, that doesn't play Leyline of the Void. This is sweet.
You know what I'm actually wondering today? This is something like I was thinking about on the way back from work today. Do you think people will be nostalgic for Ragavan the same way they are nostalgic for other banned cards like Dreadhorde Shaman? Oh god, that's not so
Dreadhorde Shaman.
Deathrite Shaman and like, I don't know, Sense Divining Top and stuff?
No. I think people aren't nostalgic for Renin 6 or Dreadhorde Arcanist. They're nostalgic for Deathrite Shaman and Top because they were legal for a lot longer, and they were much more format defining. Here we've had Ragavan for 6 months, and like maybe if it was like released years ago and was around for longer, and people had like learnt to deal with it in a way, but I don't think it would have been made 6 years ago, or years ago. It's too good. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think they'll be nostalgic for it at all. I don't think even Blue Red Delver players like it. It's just a silly card.
Yeah. It's probably the most pushed 1-drop we have ever seen. Like, even just a 1 mana 2/1 at some point in Magic's history, right, would have been like, the fuck they are doing. Like, we have Savannah Lines, okay, and that's pretty much it. But now it also has like Dash. Wait, and it doesn't end there? Oh, there's down? No, there's upsides? The fuck are you doing, guys?
It's a cool card. Like, people like Ragavan. People like what it does. Make it 2 mana. It'd be fine. It's cool. But they, yeah.
You know, also, I think the points about like being nostalgic because the other cards had been legal for a lot longer. I think one thing that's also going to make people a lot less nostalgic about Ragavan was that unlike Top and Deathrite Shaman, Ragavan was insanely expensive, right? I think it was like $100 what have you.
Yeah, that's very true. Top and Shaman are always like $10-ish. Yeah, that's a good point. And there's always been this thing where, like, from the day it came out, everyone was like, oh, yeah, it's obviously going to get banned at some point. So no one wanted to buy it. It's a very good point. Like, yeah, okay, that's the worst comparison.
Like, one day we're gonna have like an episode where I like we cite our worst comparisons if you ever made but didn't say it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, no, I don't think anyone will miss it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Cool. So looking forward, I guess it's gonna take more than just like the next Legacy Challenge. Wizards already mentioned that it's gonna be a couple of weeks where they're gonna be looking at things. So if you want change, this is the best time in the year to be the change you want to see in Legacy and hit up the Legacy Challenge and show us what's broken or not, because that's also what a lot of questions on our Discord revolved around.
Yeah. Just saying on that note, just everyone needs to prepare themselves for the waves and waves and waves of smart people saying, well, of course, Blue Red Delver top 8 to the next challenge. There's going to be a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. A tempo deck being really good in Legacy? I never heard of that.
It's more possible than you'd think.
You know, watch out for next week when there's going to be like 8 Maverick in the top 8 and like no Delver to be seen anywhere. And people are like, oh, we have to unban, I don't know, what's the most broken? The Treasure Cruise.
Oh, God.
Give them hope.
I will say, one dynamic that's changed with Ragavan Band is like endurance is incredible against Delver. It's just absolutely insane, and it's even better now because Ragavan was the only card in Blue Red Delver really, apart from like Cyborg Chord of Cunning, that like changed the life total as a resource dynamic. So Ragavan, would hit Ponders and Brainstorms sometimes, or like Carpet of Flowers or Sylvan Libraries and all these things. It actually did generate card advantage against control, but now all their threats are just damage based. So endurance is just now this insane blocker that can come down even a turn or two later after taking some chip damage and then be a very relevant card. Whereas against Ragavan, you're a bit more forced to play into it and remove it as soon as possible. So I think the 4-color Uro control decks got a lot better against Delver. So that's a cool dynamic. And
if I had to guess, I would certainly think that, and I mean, it already showed towards the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think they were already better. Yeah, good into it.
That deck, that 4-color Uro, mid-range, whatever pile, I always call it Anorak pile because he just pioneered the idea of adding the 4th card. At least he popularized it. And I think that deck, this is like the number one contender for being the best deck in Legacy right now, along with Blue Red Delver still, of course.
Saying that, what's cool about Legacy is obviously everything changes and then everything changes underneath what changes is, right, so Control can now use their life total resource more, Combo can as well, and Ragavan had this effect against combo decks where it kind of soft banned Discard and Defense Grid, and Daze to an extent. So Discard was obviously awful if they hit it with their Ragavan, so you just saw Doomsday cut it, and Reanimator played it as well, but you just took that risk because you couldn't hit yourself with Thoughtseize. It was just too good. So I think we'll see Discard come back to combo decks, and then combo decks plus Discard is just very good against these slow control decks. And Defense Grid is good again because Ragavan would pay the tax of the treasures and stuff if you need to. So I think combo decks will just get a lot better with no Ragavan as well on multiple levels. So they will then come and say hey, slow derpy control deck, we're going to destroy you again. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I think the one prediction from that I would want to draw, but it's probably too far-fetched, at least as of now, would be that Veil of Summer could become a card again. But I think at that point, if I really wanted to say that this is going to be the way Legacy plays out, I don't feel confident enough in that. But if it actually happens like that and discard and combo decks becomes a very mainstay thing again, then maybe.
Could be. To go deeper, I think it could be. Veil of Summer is obviously amazing against combo decks, especially if they come back to discard. So good point there. I think to make it a properly relevant card people want to play in their sideboards, black has to come back in some form in a fair deck as well. So I mean, look, if elves or 8-cast with all their Thopters are really, really hammering the format, I could see the control decks playing Plague Engineer. And then when you're playing Plague Engineer, you could see more of the Witherbloom Command control decks, for example. And when things are going in that direction, then I could see it come back as well. So it is a bit down the line, but I can totally see where you're coming from.
Cool. So Disco Drogo is asking, will Chalice have more of a point again?
I don't see why. I don't think so. I think another big winner from Ragavan going is Blood Moon. Ragavan just made Blood Moon look ridiculous because you can obviously cast it or dash it off red, and then you make treasures to cast your other things. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Moonstompy deck come back, and obviously that just will play Chalice. Chalice's problem is Prismatic Ending, which absolutely isn't going anywhere. There is another question, which we'll get to in a second, that says, will there be fewer Prismatic Endings? I think absolutely not. It's still... You'll still want 8 removal spells with 4 endings and 4 swords against the Delver decks, and then ending as your answer to the Sylvan Libraries and anything you want. That's why it's so good, right? So I think people will play the exact same amount of removal. So I don't
Prismatic Ending is just such an influential introduction. It was kind of subtle. You guys don't pronounce the B. What's wrong with English, man?
That's a very, very long big box to open.
Yeah. That's probably an entire podcast of its own. Anyway, so Prismatic Ending, I think we only really started talking a lot about it during the last couple, 2 or 3 months as a card that's heavily influential. Everybody knew it was good, but it also had this effect of a lot of smaller things kind of going away. I mean, Sylvan Library is still around just because it's so important to the we still have no proper name for the deck, the Uro deck, pile.
Yeah.
But stuff like Chalice goes away, and people are also a little bit more hesitant to play Carpet of Flowers, at least against these decks. I don't feel great putting it in against any deck that has Prismatic Ending.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So yeah, I think Chalice has no reason to be good, especially, but in conjunction with Blood Moon, I can see it being better. I want to jam Sagaless for Blood Moon Imperial Painter a bit. I think that's going to be good.
Actually, in conjunction with Blood Moon, I guess, yeah, since they have no basic white source in these kind of decks, right? Otherwise, they could just like overpay for the Chalice, like you pay 2 and you still get rid of the Chalice on the Blood Moon. But if you don't have a basic white source, you can't do it in the first place.
I just mean that people who play Blood Moons will play Chalices as well. Not especially because they're good together. No, sorry, that was not clear. Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't just cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the question that SC Tilly was asking about.
Yeah.
Are there going to be fewer prismatic ends? Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one weird question that I've seen a couple of times: did Delver actually get better overall? I'm gonna leave that one to you.
I could have a little rant. Yeah, I think definitely not. Basically, the idea is Ragavan was not good against elves and D&T especially, and like there's been people saying, this is like a nerf to those decks in a sense. So that's how you should look at it. Elves and D&T have gotten worse against Delver until you start factoring, like, Delver has to dedicate some sideboards to other matchups now. That's like you could go on about that for a while, but yeah, they got worse because elves especially just didn't care about getting hit by Ragavan unless they're 2 life or less, I guess. But like the cards you hit just very rarely mattered because elves is a highly synergistic deck, so that makes sense. And D&T, you could hit some better things, but like you just both decks gum up the board. D&T even has Caracas as well. Like both decks really didn't care about Ragavan, and they do care about flyers. So Delver is just better than Ragavan against them. So Delver's going to come back. They're still the Dragon Rage Channelers. They're still the Murktides. So that's their problem, and that's where they're going to be. So they'll have gotten a little bit worse, but this is how I want to approach it rather than saying Delver actually got better against the metagame. That's assuming that Elves and D&T is such a big part of the metagame that they actually dictate how good Delver is in a sense, which I don't think so when you look at, they're probably like in the top 3 or 4 played decks. Delver obviously taking the hot spot, but yeah, I think Delver's just gotten worse because Ragavan is so good, simply as.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this for actually not only today. I think somebody mentioned it in one of our legacy chats a while ago as well. And I think the one scenario where this would actually be true would be where Delver during Ragavan was actually not as good as its numbers showed. And I'm not going to even try to explain that. But basically the idea would be that Delver is so concerned with the infighting between Delver decks that they have to use this really powerful tool for the mirror match that is Ragavan, and in turn drop a couple of percentages against the rest of the metagame just because the deck is played so much. And I don't really think that was happening.
I don't think those percentages are like they're big enough to be dropped. Like you drop against D&T and Elves and not much else. Honestly, like even me playing a lot of Painter, in theory, I have Painter, which is a 1/3 that comes down fairly early. I have Welders, which I very often would trade for Ragavans. I have Engineers. There's Imperial Recruiters, which just loves to trade with Ragavans. But like, I got tempoed and like bolt your blocker out, and then they would hit good cards because I had good cards in the deck to hit, not like D&T or Elves had things that didn't work for them. I think gumming up the board is not always the best. Like it doesn't make the most sense because they can clear it if they want to. They can daze and bolt and force whatever. But you need to be playing things that are synergistic with the rest of your deck enough that Delver doesn't actually want them. Like if they hit a Thalia, they're not casting a Thalia. If they hit a Wirewood Symbiote, they don't care. But
I've lost to my own Wirewood Symbiotes beating me down.
Yeah,
PTSD.
they can beat you down fine. Yeah, I've had like actually multiple times I've had Ragavan hit an Imperial Recruiter, then they go and get a Dragon Rage Channeler. Like that happened a lot. It sucks. Yeah,
that's such a weird situation.
Yeah, and actually that's probably like the card it feels like the most hit. But yeah,
cool. So moving on, this one we already kind of talked about. Pete Dan is asking, how will the ban of Ragavan influence removal suits? I think we keep going back to stuff like Prismatic Ending and Endurance and stuff. And yeah. I think there's, if anything, people will be even more mindful of Murktide Regent, and the decks that can play Assassin's Trophy have at least a little bit more of a reason to play Assassin's Trophy now.
Yeah, my thing would be you'll see more, if possible, Pyroblasts, just because it kills Delver as well and Murktide. I don't think removal will change at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
mean, people will probably like stop playing like a random Caracas in the sideboard of some
okay.
deck.
Yeah, there'll be less random Caracas. Oh, actually, sorry, Gut Shot will stop being played.
Oh, dude, that's the big one. That's the big one for the mirror, right? Like they can finally like drop the gut shots, and put proper cards in there again.
So Goblin Lackey got better, kind of,
even better.
But yeah, okay, Gut Shot is the one that will stop being played. We'll probably see what's it called?
And by the way, that in turn is going to make elves a lot better because now Alusara Shepherd is going to be safe.
True. It is a good thing for D&T and elves that Gut Shot won't be played. A very good thing.
I'm happy to see that card go.
Yeah.
It's the main deck submerged that these kind of decks used to play.
I wonder if that balances out Ragavan being in their deck.
Cool. And then one last... By the way, there also has been an unban that nobody talks about. Kai Savatari has actually been unbanned from not being allowed to ask questions in Everyday Eternal for 2 episodes. and he submitted a pretty good question. And that one... I think I put that one towards the end because that's just like about your overall approach to Magic and how you can enjoy Magic as a whole. So Kai is asking, how do you as competitive players start enjoying casual formats such as Commander, where you have to stop thinking about best plays, opponents drawing 4 cards per turn and such? How do you arrive at a place where you can just like enjoy Magic? This is, by the way, me adding my own rephrasing of the question. How do you get to a place where you as a player get to just enjoy Magic for the sake of it without being overly concerned about optimizing your play?
Yes, there's a few things. Like, it is a really hard mindset to get into when you're just used to playing competitively. I still don't particularly enjoy multiplayer games just in general because my inner monologue to myself is just like, play the game to win. But yeah, you just need to be like, I guess it's weird to say, it's like confident in yourself that you can completely unwind and not care about winning at all. And I actually want to quote in our listener questions chat, C. Tilly said a really good answer to this question, I think. They said, one thing that took me a little while to internalize that is that in Commander, with 4 players, your expected win rate should be 25%. That's a cool way to look at it. Like, you're not expected to win, and it's hard for people to work out how they're meant to play. Like, you know, a common thing is like, how do I, like, you know, do I just make mistakes while playing? It's like, no, you can tone things down, you can play sloppily, you can F6 online, you can chill out. And for me, the way I've played EDH is view it as a board game. It's a game you play with your friends together, and you're playing this game together. You're not trying to beat your friends. You're trying to create this enjoyment environment. And so with board games, again, you're not like, sometimes you'll go for someone because it'll be funny in a social context, or sometimes you'll help someone because it'll be funny in a social context. That's EDH. It's a game you play together rather than against each other, I see. So that's helped me play it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just the analogy to it being a board game, that's something that also really made me, for the first time ever, really understand how Commander can be fun, even though when you're trying to just like not think about plays and let go and have a good time and play your flavorful deck, because that's so far removed from, like, I guess both you and me have been doing for over 10 years in Magic. And I can really appreciate that because it reminds me so much about how I had this phase in my life where I literally couldn't play offline video games anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a very, very bad thing, because every time I played a video game, it was like, okay, it's gotta be competitive and I wanna get better every single day. I wanna figure something out, I wanna get better every single day. So I couldn't like take an amazing adventure game or something and play it offline because that wasn't competitive. And even if I tried, I would immediately like look up all the guides, how to maximize this quest, how to get the best reward from this quest, quick save, quick load all the time, maximize, optimize, min-max. And it's such a bad thing. Like, it really didn't make me enjoy games anymore. And I think I didn't play any video games almost offline for like 5 years or something. And eventually while a lot of things changed and I forced myself to do it again, and I really started enjoying it again. And I realized the best thing for my enjoyment of a video game, and I guess in that case also a board game, would be not to even think about optimizing my play beyond just like giving it a random thought at the moment, and not like look up a guide and do all of that stuff. And I think that's one thing that really makes you enjoy these kinds of things and appreciate them a lot more. That you just completely detach yourself from the expectation of winning and attach yourself to the expectation of just living in the moment. Yeah,
and talking about expectations, it's about trying to work out everyone else that you're playing with expectations. So if you're like, it's, you know, try and work out what power level people expect, not even what they're playing. Like, you can make bad plays just to make the game more enjoyable for everyone at the table. So Kai also says, am I not chill enough?
Some people actually do that in Legacy, by the way.
yeah, like, it's legit. Like, you know, I think this probably happens all the time. Someone could be like, well, I have the win, but like, if you do this is really funny and cool.
Oh, yeah. I was actually more thinking about bringing Nick Fit to the table, but go on. Okay, that was probably a bad joke that nobody got. Okay.
No
If
comment.
you got the joke, hit us. Wait,
I just like
a
Nick
Fit
Fit
player. You are.
Dude,
never mind.
I played so much Nick Fit for years when I was like learning Legacy. It taught me all I know, man. But yeah, it is hard to go from just playing 1v1 competitive Magic into that setting. I'm still not very good at it, and I really dislike multiplayer games generally. So it's a tough one. But yeah, you just need to almost like try and lose in a way, and then I think you'll just start having more fun. If people realize that you're not trying to be cutthroat and win, they immediately like just warm up to that, and then I don't know, you just have a fun time. Just play a really shit deck that has one thing it does that's really dumb and really funny. Like, I don't know. So some friends of ours, we play EDH online sometimes, and I've played a few times. I made like a mono red, really bad thing that just like copies other spells and like warp worlds and stuff. So whenever someone played a big flashy spell, I'd copy it as well. So the power level of the deck is completely dependent on the rest of the players' decks. And then when they play something busted, I would do the same thing. If they wouldn't do anything good, I'd be like, oh, well, my thing does nothing. So
actually, that's a genius concept.
Yeah.
When people ask you like for the power level of your deck, it's like it's a dynamic power level that adjusts according to what you are doing. Like, it's full of clones and copy and everything. Oh my god, is that already a thing? Because that's a design space for wizards to like print a commander or precon or whatever that they should really be exploring.
Could be. My commander was Italy. It's a 6-mana 6/6 when it attacks. Everyone exiles the top card of their library, and you can cast one of them, I think. I don't know. It died every time I played it.
That sounds scarily familiar.
Yeah. It was a joke about putting it in Sneak and Show because you can like flip Emrakul or something. But,
oh, yeah.
Anyway, that's how I enjoy things, silly stuff.
Cool. And Kai's second question is, am I not chill enough?
Yeah, quickly, Kai, do not put Thassa's Oracle in your EDH deck. Like, chill. I know you will, but he's going to make some completely busted, broken, just blue-black combo deck. And no, I think, Kai, if you want to actually have the real answer to this question, let Twitter choose your commander.
Oh, that's you just like, you remove all the accountability. It's like, oh, I lost, but I didn't make this deck, so you know, whatever. It's just like kind of funny to me that Kai comes to us with this question, because of all the people I know, not only Magic, Kai is probably one of the most, I don't know, chilled out guys to hang out with and discuss things. Like, I've never really seen Kai get actively angry and grumpy and pissed off, and he's like, he's probably going to be like, oh, Julian, you've never seen my true form. But that's just like my impression of Kai, that he, like, even if you had disagreed about something, he would be like super happy and chill and like, dude, okay, whatever, let's just like not get too deep into that. And I think that's exactly the mindset that makes you enjoy Commander, where you're like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to try to win, I want to make this funny play with my, I don't know, 8/8 trample, flying, hippo, monkey, whatever. And it's funny, like, Kai, try to put some more real life Kai into Commander Kai, and I think you will have a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's do a stream with playing me, you, Kai, and someone else.
Oh, dude, like playing Commander?
Yeah.
I've done that before. Yeah, I would be. Actually, you know, that's amazing. We gotta get somebody on there as well.
Can I vote?
Give me a vote.
I want kinda from the Discord.
Oh, yeah. That's the guy from your local Legacy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he submitted a couple
EDH.
of like donation decks to me. That was quite fun.
He is the craziest brewer in the world. So yeah.
That's quite the title.
Yeah.
Awesome. So with that, I think we're going to call it a day today. I want to give shout outs to everybody who's been supporting us, especially on Eternal Witness tier: Tommy Hinks, Testacular, Sebastian Hollager, Guillem, Jake, and Severin Schwarzhuber. And in I'm so sorry, Grizzlebrand will be banned in Julian's perfect world. We have to rename the tier then. On Grizzlebrand tier, Victor Bernat, Bachi Butt, Scott Monroe, Jeremy Gates, Henrik Korkutz, Tom Hepp, Joel Granahead, and Paragon Games in St. Louis. If you want to make this list, if you want to, most importantly, help us out getting the word of Everyday Eternal out to the world, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or join the Patreon, join the Discord, and just hang out with us, find out about what's going to be my commander. I have absolutely no idea. Like, I played the pretty spiky ones. But whenever I played Commander, I only ever had spiky commanders. I think I was going to play a pretty chill one. Isn't there this giant goat that just like distributes permanence around and gives everything away?
Oh, I remember that one. Zedru, I think.
Yeah. Maybe that's going to be the one for me.
My ones when I was younger were... I played Carador, the Ghost Chieftain, when Griselbrand was legal, and I would just like entomb for it and Griselbrand every single game. It was not fun.
Sounds miserable.
But I had a Feldergriff deck as well. It was like group huggy. That was cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's the hippo, right?
Yeah, the hippo. And
cool.
Then I got into like the building mid power level, and then I watched GP Seattle and got into Legacy.
Wait, GP Seattle, that was 2000 and
that was when
13.
like a single lingering soul token.
No, 15.
Yeah, something like that.
Wait, you've been playing Legacy for longer.
I was like following it and watching it, but I wasn't playing it before that. But then I played, like, I took a break and came back and got into EDH for a couple of years. But I played Old Extended and everything before that.
Oh, okay. That's because in my head you were like one of those old school guys, and I was like, wait, only 2015?
Yeah, no. I was playing like Exalted Angel and Extended years and years ago, stuff like that, and Wild Mongrels and Standard. But then I took a long break and then got back into EDH for a couple of years, and then
Cool. So with that, that's going to be it from us today. If you want to follow us on social media, at EternalMTG on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at itsjulian23 on Twitter, and also streaming on It's Julian on Twitch. By the way, you guys had no idea how many takes we had to do on this because it's...
You thought I was bad at remembering my names.
The thing is, you did the perfect thing. You can now choose your handle on every single social media, streaming, YouTube, whatever platform. Yeah. I have slightly different ones. And them being slightly different makes it even worse. Like I have Julian23 on MTGO.
23 different ones, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I gotta pick a better nickname. Oh my god, that would be a thing for 2022. Julian picks a new nickname.
It's tough to, like, you know, people don't know your new name. So I'm enjoying Clout Go Ranger. I'm gonna keep going on with that one for a bit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And is that where people can find you on Twitter?
No, it's Callum Smith MTG. Obviously.
Perfect. So everybody have a great time. Enjoy the new monkey free world, and we see you again in a couple of weeks when Murktide Region is gonna hit the bite the dust.
And see you Saturday in the challenge.
Bye.